Hey guys, this is Lisa from My Copper Life, and today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little peppermint candy link bracelet. So let's get started. First, the materials that I use for this project are as follows: flush cutters, nylon flathead pliers, round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, bent chain nose pliers, 18 gauge silver wire, 20 gauge silver wire, 20 gauge red coated wire, a bench block, chasing hammer, a ring mandrel, and a metric ruler. Also, the materials are listed in the description of this video. Okay, so now we need to grab our 20 gauge silver wire, and I'm going to measure about 10 inches of this wire. Or for those of you who use the metric system, that's 23.5 centimeters approximately. And I'm going to measure that right here. And then using the flush side of my flush cutters, I'm going to cut that wire. And then you're going to want to straighten that wire up as best as possible. Starting off with straight wire is the best way to start. So now I'm grabbing this 20 gauge red coated wire, and I'm going to grab the same amount of material I did for the silver wire, so 10 inches or 23.5 centimeters in length. And I'm just using my silver wire as a guide for the length of this. And then again, I'm going to flush cut the end of that. And then I have the two pieces I need to start this project. Grab my ring mandrel, but you could use whatever you have laying around your house as a mandrel, as long as it measures about 3 centimeters in diameter. And so that's why I use a ring mandrel. It kind of tells me on there what the diameter is. So I'm going to wrap both of these wires that are laying side by side around the ring mandrel at about 3 centimeters. When I wrap my wires around the mandrel, I usually take the left side of the wires and wrap them around the mandrel above the right side of the wires. The reason I do that is so when I start wrapping my wires around, I like to do it in a clockwise rotation. So you'll see that here in a minute. So now I'm going to take the silver wire, which is below the red wire, and kind of cross it over the top of the red wire, because I want my wires to be alternating in color. So here you can see I've got red, silver, red, silver. So that's how I want to start that. Now I'm going to take my two silver wires and I'm going to twist them around to the exact opposite location. So now I'm going to take that right red coated wire and wrap it around under the silver wire on the left in that clockwise position. And then the same now with the left red wire up to that silver wire on the right. So they're basically kind of hugging each other. And we're going to continue doing this around. So I'm going to grab that silver wire and just hug it up against the spiral that I've started now. So putting my thumb on top will help keep that nice and flat and straight so that wires don't tuck under each other. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, as you'll see here in a minute. Now I'm going to take that red wire and do the same thing, wrap it around, hug it up. And get that up tight against those other Now we're going to pull this silver wire all the way to the opposite side of the mandrel. And then the red wire. And see there, it went under a little bit, so I'm going to readjust and make sure it sits right up next to the silver wire. Now I'm going to take that silver wire and the red wire and start wrapping that around. On the top of this red wire is a little bent, and it's trying to tuck underneath that silver wire. See how it's going under there? So I'm going to pull it back up and give it a nice little curve with my thumb, and then pull it back down. See how it lays a lot nicer now. And then I put my thumb on there and then pull that silver wire up next to the red wire, and then the red wire up to the silver wire. I'm going to try to straighten out the wires as best as I can before wrapping them, because that will prevent any kinks or bends in the wire as much as possible. But there we are so far, and now we're going to wrap around there, and looky there again. I've got a bend in my wire, and so it's giving me difficulties. So again, I'm going to bend that wire back up, give it a little bend with my thumb, and then put it right up against that red wire until we come all the way down the side. This takes a little work and finesse, but you will be able to get it eventually. Just keep working with it until it lays flatly like you'd like it. Now we're going to wrap the red wire around. And again, we're going to work with it and bend it as needed with my thumb. And now we're going to bend that silver wire up. And no, I guess I'm not happy with that red wire because it's tucking under at the bottom there. So I'm going to push it back out a little bit and then re-bend that red wire back around. Now we're going to take that silver wire back up and the red wire. And there we have pretty completed there. I think I'm just going to pull it back over just a little bit past the side there. But you want to have 3 rows of red or silver on the top and bottom. Once you get there, then you've got enough spiraling. So I'm going to pull it off my mandrel. Now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers to make the little loops at either end of this spiral. So when I'm grabbing the wires, I'm grabbing both wires at the same time with the silver wire on top, the red wire beneath, as you can see there. And then I'm going to wrap my wire around that round nose plier. I'm also adjusting the other wires down a little bit so I can come across the top of this spiral with these wires. So I'm going to wrap it around, then I'm going to readjust my pliers so that I can complete the loop all the way around. And then I'm snugging it up tight to that round nose pliers. And then I'm going to roll that loop up a little bit so it's a little bit more centered. And now I'm going to do the same on the other side. So again, grabbing both wires in my round nose pliers with the silver wire on top. I'm going to wrap my wires around the round nose plier and then readjust my pliers so that I can finish wrapping around, ensuring that that's nice and snug. And then once I get it snug, I'm going to rotate that loop up a little bit to get it to go directly across from the other loop. And then I adjust wherever I need to kind of get them to be right across from each other. Tighten down any of those loops, make sure that they're nice and even. So there's what we have so far, the spiral with the 2 loops on a ring band. Now we're going to cut this ring band because we don't need it for this project, but you could make this into a ring and it would be really cute. But here I'm going to cut the center of that ring band, and then I'm going to pull those sides of the ring bands out to the sides of this spiral, right across the back of those loops. So there you can see me straightening that wire out, getting it right across the back of them. There's one, and now I'll turn it over and do the other side. So now that we've cut our ring band in half like that, there's nothing to really secure the wires in this, so you could see there, they're just sort of floppy and moving around. But what we're going to do next is to secure all that together. So now I'm going to grab my nylon flathead pliers. And the nylon helps not to mar your wires up, especially with this red coated wiring. I'm going to grab on top of that loop and those wires I cut from the ring band and hold on to those while I wrap the end of my spiral around all of those wires. So I'm going to wrap around twice right under that loop. So there's one wrap all the way underneath that. Those loops will kind of move and splay apart a little bit, and that's okay. You can adjust once we get finished wrapping this around. So I'm going to wrap it around 2 times. This is the second time. And then I'm going to pull it all nice and tight. And then this is where I'm going to adjust my loop. Grab that nylon jaws there, and then just push that back into place. Maybe even twist it back. And now it's good and set. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm going to take my nylon jaw pliers here in just a second and grab both those bottom wires from the ring band and the loop, and then take the wires from the spiral and wrap it around the back just below where that loop is. So I'm going to continue to wrap these wires around the front here, trying to lay them side by side, so I'm kind of going up under a little bit there. And then again wrapping around to the back, so that would be the second wrap. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my flush cutters, and with the flush side I'm going to cut right about center. Watch out for flying wires here as they go flying off to the right there. Thankfully no one was in here with me. Normally I try to put my piece down to the table so they don't do that. Now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and just squish those ends down. They won't get tucked down into the piece. They'll be out of the way, and they're going to get covered up here in a minute, and you'll see that when I get to that part. So now I flip the piece over, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to cut just slightly past center. I think the first time I just said center, but slightly past. And then I'm going to squish those wires down again. Sorry, I'm going off screen here. And there we go. And now we've got them all tied. Now I'm going to take this end wire and I'm going to pull it tight, then bend it over the top of those wraps so it's flat down like this. And then I'm going to cut the ends of those wires off just below the wraps. You can kind of see those wraps there. And then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to grab the end of where I just cut and bend down toward the spiral, the back of that spiral. So it's going to make like a little kind of an L. See that right there? And then with the nylon jaw pliers, I'm going to squish that down right up against the piece. So now there's nothing sticking out, everything's covered up. And now we're going to do the other side the same. So I'm going to pull that up, bend it down, and then we're going to cut the ends of these pieces just below those wraps right there. Just like we did the other side. And again, grab the chain nose pliers, bend the wires toward the spiral, and then squish those all down with those nylon jaw pliers. And there you can see it's nice and tight. And there is our finished link. It looks a lot like a little peppermint candy. And here you can see it's tight, there's no wiggling around, those pieces aren't going to come apart. Kind of makes me want to go get some peppermint and some hot chocolate right now. It just sounds so good. And here is the finished product. There's the back, the side, and the front. So now I'm going to make about 6 more of these to complete the bracelet. And here's the whole handful of them, all done up for this project. And now I'm going to grab my 18 gauge silver wire, and this is the wire I choose to use to make my clasps and jump rings or anything that attaches things. It's a little stronger than 20 gauge, so I choose to use the 18 gauge. I'm going to grab a mandrel. This one is a 5mm mandrel or crochet hook that I use as a mandrel. And I'm going to make my jump rings with this. So I'm going to wrap around quite a few times to start with. I like to make my jump rings in batches, so I only need one of these 5mm jump rings for this project, but since I'm doing several of these off camera, I decided to go ahead and make a bunch. Plus I could show you guys how to make jump rings. For this project you need one 5mm jump ring and about 6 or 7, depending on how many links you use, 4mm jump rings. So here I'm getting to the end of wrapping this coil around the mandrel. And then I like to take that tail and just tuck it down so I can actually use that end. So I get my chain nose pliers and just press it down onto the mandrel to get it nice and round at the end there. I don't like to waste much wire if I can help it. So now I'm just going to slide the mandrel off of the coil there, and then I'm going to cut the end of this wire right where it starts to curve from the straight part of the wire. And now that was just flush cut, so this next cut I'm going to make is with the flush cut side of flush cutters, and then that makes my first loop. So I'm going to show you at the end of the coil that I just cut, the other side of the cut was not a flush cut, because the other side of the flush cutters are not flush. As you can see there, there's like a little weird point there. So I'm going to cut that off, and then I'm going to flip my flush cutters the opposite direction to cut the other side of the wire, so that we have two flush ends that will meet on this jump ring. And there it is. So I'm going to keep cutting these until I have the whole coil cut up. And again, like I said, we're using one 5mm jump ring for this project, and 6 or 7 or even 8, depending on how long you want to make your bracelet and how many links you use, of the 4mm jump rings. And there we go, all the jump rings are cut. Now I'm going to grab one of my 4mm jump rings and also my bent nose and regular chain nose pliers. With my chain nose and bent nose in each hand, I'm going to twist that jump ring open. Don't pull it open, but twist it open. Otherwise it will misshape your jump ring. I place my first link on, and then I mirror the links on there. So either the two backs face each other or the two fronts of the links face each other. Otherwise they're going to be, one is going to be flipped upside down, and you want them both to be facing the same direction. So you do them back to back or front to front when you're doing these. Now I'm twisting it back, that little jump ring, until it gets met together, and there we go, our first set of links. Now I already have another set of links here. I'm going to put these two sets of links together. Again, grabbing my jump ring, and I'm going to twist it open. Just like that. And grab one of my links, put that through, and then the other link, you want both the back sides to be facing each other in this case. And then I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers and the chain nose pliers, and I'm going to twist these wires back into place. So I'm going to twist toward each other and go past and then back until you get a nice snug fit. And by going back and forth like that, you're work hardening that jump ring. So there we have those 4 links completed. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of the links on off camera so we can start the next part. Alright, I forgot to show that I got 4.5 centimeters of 18 gauge wire here. Sorry about that. But here we go. Let's start back on the right foot. Okay, so we're going to take the round nose pliers and grab the very end of that 4.5 centimeter wire and make a loop. So there we're going to wrap it around, and then I'm going to straighten the top of this little loop up on top of this pin. This is for making a little eye pin here. I'm going to tighten that loop back up. There we go. And now I'm going to grab about 1/3 of the way up that straight part of the eye pin. And then I'm going to wrap around the bottom part of my round nose pliers, which is the largest part of these round nose pliers. And then bend it down past that straight part of the eye pin. Then take the end of the wire with the smallest part of the round nose pliers and bend another loop into the end of that wire. So we're going to bend it right on up to make it kind of curve up a little bit. And then push that down to almost meet. And there's the little clasp. Now I'm going to grab my bench block and my chasing hammer, and I'm going to give a few little taps on this to kind of harden the clasp up. Next, I'm going to grab a 4mm jump ring, and I'm going to grab my chain nose and bent nose pliers and twist that jump ring, not pull it apart, but twist it, and then add my clasp and then the end of my links onto that same jump ring. Then I'm going to twist that back together, going past, then coming back and forth until I get it lined up just right to work harden that jump ring. And there's the clasp. Add it on. Now I'm going to grab another 4mm jump ring. Doing the same, I'm going to twist it to open it. Then set that aside. And then grab my 5mm jump ring, which will be the loop for the clasp, or the jump ring for the clasp. I'm going to twist that one closed. And make sure you get it just all lined up so it's not going to snag on anything or pull on anything. Everything's nice and flush together there. And we're going to grab that 4mm jump ring and the links, or the other end of the bracelet, and loop that through, and then put that 5mm jump ring on that 4mm jump ring, and then twist that closed. And now we have a completed peppermint link bracelet. I just think this turned out really cute. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, these links are great for making earrings with. You can also make a ring, as I was saying earlier in the video, where you could just keep the ring band and just wrap the remaining wire around the band. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed creating this bracelet. I hope you guys have a great week, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye.